So guys, hope you are fine again, and we are again here to talk about some more lessons of Pakistan studies. So today we will be talking about the causes of the origin of Pakistan. I mean to say that different authors, writers, historians, politicians have been putting forward different theories, different theses about the origin of Pakistan. I mean to say what actually make Pakistan possible, how Pakistan came into being. These are the questions that would be tackled in today's lecture. So today's lecture is about the causes of origin of Pakistan. So I already told you that there are many causes, many theories that people have been, authors, writers have been presenting that Pakistan came into being because of blah 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 blah. So I have sorted out here four major causes. I mean to say four major theories about the origin of Pakistan. So the leading theory or the cause of Pakistan, origin of Pakistan, is the religious cause. I mean, it's a religious cause. There were religious causes that became the reason of the Pakistan's foundation. So how, I mean to say, religious causes? Why religious causes were, I mean to say, reason of Pakistan becoming an independent state for the Muslims of Indian subcontinent. So the religious causes are emphasized by the Muslim historians, especially Pakistani historians, especially Pakistani writers, authors and politicians. They believe that Pakistan came into being because of religious differences between the two major communities in Indian subcontinent. These two major communities were Hindus and Muslims. For example, Pakistani authors Khalid bin Said say that Pakistan came into being because Muslims were cautious about their identity, about their religious identity. I would say they had the sense of separatedness that made Pakistan possible. So how I mean to say religion? Muslims believe that Islam and Hinduism are two different religions. So these two communities cannot live together. I'm saying why? There are many other countries, there are many religions, and the people of many religions, they are living together. But here the problem was that it was, I mean to say, Muslims hadn't no trust on Hindus, and Hindus had no trust on Muslims. Muslims had been the rulers of India for centuries. So when India was going to be liberated, was getting independence from British, so Muslims thought that Hindus, for example, will dominate Muslims because Muslims were in minority. So they would be perennially always dominated by Hindus. So therefore, they thought that we should have some separate piece of land that for the Indian Muslims. So religious causes, how I mean to say, they become more apparent and widely during, I mean to say, there were some events which led this cause further widening. So Muslims and Hindus could not come together, or could not sort out their differences, and could not live together. This became the reason that Muslims and Hindus could not live together, and this led to the split of India into two countries, India and Pakistan. So this is mostly called two-nation theory. I mean to say Muslims call it that I mean to say religious differences gave rise to the theory of two nations. I mean to say, according to this theory, that Muslims are a different nation and Hindus are a different nation given their religious differences. I mean to say, Hindus were Muslims, their religious practices, their religious faith, belief was different from Muslims, and Muslims' faith and religious practices, customs, and everything was different than Hindus, and this, I mean to say, became, according to the historians, Muslim historians, cause of Pakistan. And then there were political causes. I mean, so this is one religious cause, is one of the causes that made Pakistan possible. And then there is a political causes. In political causes, actually, Muslims were in Indian subcontinent, in United India, Muslims were in minority, Hindus were in majority, is Muslims thought. So, because Muslims had been the rulers of India, sorry. Well, Muslims had been ruling India for centuries. About 700 years Muslims had ruled India. So when British conquered Indian subcontinent, Muslims rule ended in India, and now it was Hindus were in majority. So first, in initial years of conquest of India, Britishers were favoring Hindus because they were afraid of Muslims, because Muslims were the former rulers. So they were afraid of Muslims, that if Indians succeed in driving Britishers out of India, Muslims will again come into power and will rule India. So Britishers thought that it were Muslims who will conspire against British rule in India. So they tried to curse Muslims and to give some concessions, favors to Hindus in initial years of conquest of India by the British. So this pushed Muslims backward, and because of British policies. And other point of Muslims backward in politics, or political backwardness reason was that Muslims did not like British rule, and they did not like to be ruled by the Britishers, because they had been rulers by themselves. So they were not ready to accept British rule on them, and so they kept themselves aloof. They kept themselves away from British system of governance, from British education system, from British political system. So for example, Muslims did not like to learn English, and so this became a very point that took Muslims back, and Hindus quickly jumped on learning English and adjusted themselves to the British rule. So they made some progress in politics, in education, and in jobs, and in many other areas. So Muslims were backward. So Muslims, and now it was the turn of Hindus. So when Hindus, for example, became cautious of their identity, and they tried to oust British from India, as they thought that India was there, so they should oust India, and slowly and gradually they should get independence from British. So when they became politically cautious, and they tried to launch movement, nationalist movements, so British then was trying to bring Muslims up and to bring against Hindus. So Muslims thought that if India, if the British leaves India, Hindus would be are in majority, so they will be ruling India perennially forever, and Muslims being in majority would not be able to make the government to come in the power because they already had remained in power for centuries. So they were politically conscious, and they thought that Hindu may victimize them because they had conquered India, Muslims had conquered India, and they had, committed some violence and some destruction in India. So Muslims thought that if British leaves today, and Hindus will replace Muslims, replace British, and they will be ruling. They would be in majority forever, and they will be ruling India forever. They will be ruling Muslims forever. The Muslims had this fear that they would be ruled by Hindus, and then the Hindus will victimize them politically, economically, and socially as well. So this consciousness, led the Muslims to demand a separate piece of land out of Indian subcontinent for them to live independently and to live sovereignly and live with their own system of according to their religion and politics and society and all like this. So these were the political causes that became the one of the reasons of creation of Pakistan. So this is political reasons are have a long history because they begin from the conquest of India and up to the 1947. So they are very long. They are very long. Have long list, but we have superficially. We have just given the overview of these political causes. We have just given an image that how politics became the reason of the creation of Pakistan. So throughout the history of Indian movement against British, Muslims were cautious of their political rights, and they had been demanding constitutional guarantees to their political rights. So their constitutional guarantees to their political rights was not given to them according to their aspirations, according to their desire. So ultimately they demanded that they should be given independence outrightly, freedom from the rest of India. So ultimately British and Congress agreed to give Muslims some areas out of India where they could live independent of India and independent of all population other than Muslims, other than Hindus. Sorry. So these were the political causes, and then there were some economic causes. This is the third reason that made the creation of Pakistan possible. The third reason was economic causes. Muslims, as I told you, that had remained the rulers of India for centuries. So their economic position was very prosperous. They were rich people, they were wealthy people, because Muslim rulers had brought Muslims in their army, in their bureaucracy, and Muslim rulers had allocated east land at large scale to Muslim dignitaries. So Muslims had been rich population of Indian subcontinent. So upon the conquest of India, for example, Muslims lost all these privileges. To say Muslims were lost the power, political power, and economic power as well. When British tried to modernize India, to say to install the industries in India, and when British introduced Indian civil service, say competitive exam for the appointment of bureaucracy to run their empire. So they introduced English. To say their exams were conducted in English. However, on the other hand, Muslims did not like to learn English. So this became hurdle for Muslims to get many posts for appointments in British bureaucracy in India. So Muslims were lagging behind. To say the people of other religions in India, mainly from Hindus. So, and then there were traders, businessmen, Muslim traders, and Muslim industrialists. They were also not able to compete Hindus in the areas of business and commerce and industrialization. So they thought that if they are given a separate piece of land where there would be only Muslims and there would not be Hindus or people of other religion, so there would not be competition, and Hindus and Muslims will be the only people so honor at the industries and commerce and business. So to say Maimons, Khwajas, Muslim traders supported Muslim League. When Muslim League claimed for Pakistan, claimed for a separate piece of land, these business communities, these trader communities came forward to support Muslim League financially, especially financially. They donated Muslim League very large funds to contest elections or to make a campaign or to to say spread the message of Pakistan all over India. So these were the communities which were not able to contest to say Hindus, to compete Hindus. Therefore they thought that if we get a separate piece of land, a separate country of their own, so there would be no competition, there would be no Hindu, all other all business would be in their hands. So they supported. These were the very causes. And then there was employment problems. Muslims were lagging behind in education. Muslims did not like to acquire Western modern education, and it was the only reason of getting, source of getting a good job. So these were, to say, and judiciary as well, and army as well. Pakistan had, Muslims of India had already lost their share in army, as they had been the army men during Muslim rule. So all these factors contributed, to say, to the frustration of Muslims to demand a separate piece of land for them. And so this was one of the causes of the creation of Pakistan, like religious, and then there was political causes as well. The fourth one is WWII. Say World War II. World War II began in 1939. World War began in 1939. So there were two leading countries fight for this war. One of these leading country was the Britain, and second was the Germany of Hitler. When Hitler imposed war on Britain, France, and other European countries, so these to say the world divided into blocks. One block was led by Hitler, and second block was led by Britain. Later, after 2 years, for example, in 1941, America joined, the war on the side of Britain. So this war continued for 5 years, from 1939 to 1944 or 45. So British conducted this war, and ultimately in 1945 the British bloc, American bloc, won the war, and Germany of Hitler lost the war. But the problem was that the war had made Britain economically very, very weak. So Britain was feeling, pressures on its economy at home. Many thousands people were killed, billions of property was damaged. So the people, British people at home were protesting against their government, that the British government should quit its colonies and concentrate on its people at home, because there was after war, there was hunger, there was poverty, there was disease. So people demanding British government to concentrate on their people, to uplift their own people, rather than to waste time or to waste money in the colonies. So the British, after winning war, announced that it will quit from India, gave independence to India, and ultimately soon after war concluded, Britain gave independence to India, because it was not possible, was not possible for British to to continue its colonies, to have its presence in colonies. So this, WWII, World War II, we can say directly or indirectly that Hitler had the role in the independence of Indian subcontinent, in the creation of Pakistan as well. So this was one of the cause as well. After World War II, the UN, for example, United Nations organization was set up, and the main feature of this organization, international organization, was to bring peace in the world, because the Second World War, before First World War, then Second World War, had brought a devastation in the world, destruction in the world. So the UN was created, to bring peace in the countries. The second main objective of UN was to decolonize. The Western powers who had made colonies out of their countries. For example, Britain had colonized Indian subcontinent. So the aim of UN was to decolonize world, to give freedom to the colonial people, to the colonial countries who were under the colony of Western powers. Britain, or France, Germany, Portugal, and Spain, or many others. So Indian subcontinent became independent according to this process of decolonization as well. So all these factors made Pakistan possible. At this stage, for example, we cannot say that we cannot sort out a single cause, and we cannot emphasize on only single cause, that this cause became the creation of Pakistan, source of creation of Pakistan. There were many causes, and all these causes played their contributory role in the creation of Pakistan. And so ultimately, India is split into two, and Pakistan came into being. So these were today's topic, was the causes of origin of Pakistan. These are very hard days, we know already, so it is difficult to stand here for longer. So I'm trying to make short videos and give just you the main things that are needed. So see you again for the next lecture. Thank you.